Howdy, folks, and welcome to the SoundAppraiser TuneScore podcast. My name's Cary Nightingale, and with me, as always, is Kevin Niebrick. Kevin, how you doing tonight?
Well, I was feeling a little bit under the weather on account of all the wildfire smoke the other day during our recording, but now I'm feeling a little bit better.
Well, that actually is fantastic to hear. Good. So, folks, we've got a couple of songs in this episode that you're either going to love or not love, because that's how we felt about them. We've got a theme of fairly recent songs within the last 20 years that have a very strong retro vibe for one reason or another. And we're going to kick off with the first song. It's by the artist Meghan Trainor, and it's called All About That Bass. Because I think I threatened to do a review on this in a previous episode, and we've decided to get around to it. I think I loved this song a little bit less, so I'll prosecute, and then Kevin, you can defend, or also prosecute if you choose to. So we'll start, as always, with composition. My ratings for this were middling at best. I thought it had a really strong and catchy melody, so 0.7 out of 1. I thought the lyrics left a lot to be desired. That garnered a 0.3 out of 1. The rhythm and harmony were both okay at 0.6 out of 1 each. My justification for this is that for a song called All About That Bass, the bass line is pretty lackluster. There's a really simple doo-wop chord progression, and I think it goes pretty much throughout the entire track. And it's just a 1 to minor 2 to 5 to 1, repeating. The vocal harmonies do play well on top of it, and there are a lot of vocal harmonies, and I think Meghan Trainor is probably a very gifted singer. The lyrics, for a modern take on a retro sound, feature too many slang terms, like boom boom, booty, and junk, and a mixed message that I will discuss a little bit more when we get to Appeal. But Kevin, that's my take on composition. Tell me what you think and how it's different.
So the composition starts with the chorus. We've come across that before with ABBA, Dancing Queen, and in fact, another song that we listened to on this recording, Rehab by Amy Winehouse. The problem with the melody, I would have given it full credit, but it looks like that melody may have been lifted from a K-pop band. The band name is Coyote with a K, and the song is called Happy Mode, and it was released in 2006. And in fact, that melody may have been lifted from a Fish song with a PH. The song is called Contact. So all three songs.
Kevin, you know what they say. Good artists borrow. Great artists steal directly.
Nice. Brilliant. I would disagree. I would say that all three melodies are they're close. And I feel like the melody itself is pretty simplistic. It's just the descending notes, and then it moves up. You mentioned that it's fairly simplistic in its construction. It may be that they all just had, they all started with a melody, and then it led to a natural conclusion, and that's what happened. They all came up with a similar chord progression, a similar melody. It's arguable. I don't know. All three songs are great. This one in particular stands out, I think, with the vocal melody. The performance, again, the vocal melody is really where it shines. I gave it full marks for both accuracy and feel. The accompanying instrumentation is pretty great. It's a little bit buried in the mix is the only problem I had with that. And again, for production, for that reason, I gave the mix 0.5 out of 0.6. But the arrangement is fine. I like the arrangement, and I think that it was must have been a little bit difficult to balance all those things. So I gave it full credit. How did you feel about the performance and the production of this one?
So when I listened to this song, and I've heard it, it's been inescapable. At least back in 2014, it was. I felt like there were some strange inflections in the way that she sings a certain word or line. It may be intentional, but it makes the delivery a little less cohesive and more of a melting pot of genres, which maybe that's what they're going for. It just lacked that cohesivity that I would probably look for. So for the performance, a lot of credit for the vocal harmonization. I really like that. So about 5/6 credit for accuracy and 2/3 credit for feel for me. As far as the production goes, I was maybe a little less charitable. I thought the mix was fine. It's a good mix. 2/3 credit for that. For the arrangement, I gave it 1/3 credit. At the end of the intro, she says, and I just wrote it down, and I can't remember exactly how it goes. Funny enough, so maybe this is not as memorable, but it's like bass, 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 bass. It's just descending like that at the end of the intro, and it sounds like it was done with a digital effect to make it really, probably 2 octaves below her natural range. But I feel like that didn't need to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like a questionable little decision. I think she was probably capable of doing a similar descending line naturally, and that would have fit I would say, the overall aesthetic. Again, I'm not the artist here. I'm not the producer here. I'm not sure exactly what the intentionality was, but I have a feeling that she could have done it, and it would have sounded as good or better. I think the hook is catchy. All about that bass, no treble, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense because bass is good, but without treble, you start to lose appreciation for it. When things are always good, things are never good, right? It's the peaks and the valleys, right? It's a catchy hook. We hear it 20 times in 3 minutes and 9 seconds, which means we hear just the phrase about that bass probably closer to 40 times in 3 minutes.
Wow.
It is an all-out assault on one's senses. So from an arrangement standpoint, if I were the producer, I probably would have made the song shorter and cut off about a chorus and a half from the tail end. Now, as far as appeal, I have maybe a little bit more to say about this because it did not appeal to me. Listening to it without really paying a whole lot of attention or getting into the message, it's a damn catchy song. It is the syrup on your pancake, But the emotion that I felt out of it was more or less entirely neutral. So about half credit on that, a quarter credit for innovation, or 1 bonus point, a tenth of a bonus point if you want to look at it like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave it 0.5 out of 1.6 for repeat listenability.
Oh, all right. Wow.
So
right.
here's my take on it, because there was some controversy around the lyrics. Is it a mixed message? Is it really body positive and all of that? There are 2 ways to improve your image, whether it's a self-image or the way that others perceive you. And honestly, they're the same thing. You can make yourself look better. And I'm not just talking about physical appearance or whatever, just make yourself better. Or you can make others seem worse. And this one, the lyrics to this song, I feel uses both. Now, I'm fine with the first. Anything you can do for self-improvement or talking about how the way that you are, the way that you present yourself is good. It's acceptable. Like, hype up the benefits. That's fine. That's great. It's very enriching to yourself and to society to accept one's perceived flaws. I know this is touchy, given the unrealistic standards set by the fashion industry and how that disproportionately affects females, and I'm not in a position to comment as a man, etc.
It affects men as well, I would say.
Disproportionately, though. This is, by and large, this is a female issue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So not necessarily my place to comment, but I'll do it anyway because it's my job and I'm serious about it.
Okay.
All right. But contrasting yourself against, these are in quotes, skinny bitches and stick figure silicone Barbie dolls, it's not just mean, it reveals your insecurity and diminishes the impact of and hard work you put into your message of acceptance and positivity. And saying, "No, I'm just playing," which she does after the tell them skinny bitches that. She says, "No, I'm just playing." That does not grant you a free pass. I said, with all due respect, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you get to say whatever you want to say. We still live in a society. So when I discount the message of the song, I am left with some pretty disposable bubblegum pop that's got some great harmonies on it. My final tune score for this was a 5.1 out of 10.
Scathing review.
And I said that it was best listened to when you're learning music notation and you think a better way to memorize the notes on the lower clef would be great booties deserve formidable admirers. Usually they would say for that
I think I
mnemonic.
would forget that. That seems
Normally they would say good boys do fine always, GBDFA.
very
But yeah,
misogynistic.
great booties do deserve formidable admirers, but you're right. It's not as memorable. I'll have to work on that. Good thing we're not rating my my mnemonics here. But that's how it appealed to me, or better stated, didn't appeal to me. But Kev, I want to hear your take.
I'm glad. Like our scores are so far apart on this one, and it's very surprising to me. But yeah. So if I'm being honest, my emotion for this one for appeal, I gave it a 1.3 just because again, I feel like when I rate something like that, the message just hit me, but barely just. So not quite swayed by it, but it hit me. There's something there. I think in this case, I'm not the demographic, so that's part of the reason why. Innovation, I even gave them a 0.1 out of zero point 0.4, so we had the same score on that one. Um, Even though they lifted the melody, whether or not it was intentional, I feel like it may have been. Whether or not that's the case, um, the arrangement of the song, the vocal harmony around it really lifted it up in my eyes and really kept its head above water. The song as a whole, repeat listenability as well was pretty high, 1.4 out of 1.6. The song is catchy, it's fun. It's got a lot of fun things going on. Again, that vocal melody, I was just really impressed by that. It was really great. I loved it. Again, we could have that same conversation about where does you know when does it become okay to lift certain aspects from different songs, and when does it considered an independent creation, and when is it something you've stolen? That's a tough line. I don't know where that line exists. This one is so similar to that K-pop song by Coyote. So I would encourage anybody to go listen to that Coyote song because there are some things that it does much better than this song. The rhythm of that Coyote song, which is called again Happy Mode, released in 2006. The rhythm of that song is amazing. It's super fun to listen to. You really get into it. I would even encourage people to go listen to that Fish song, Contact, because it's fun as well. It's got a different vibe to it. Obviously, it's a Fish song. It's a little more mellow, but it also is a real pretty song. You know, um,
It's not really expanding one's horizons to listen to three songs with the exact same melody, Kevin.
they're very different though. They're very
I'm kidding.
different songs. Um, yeah, it's there's still a little bit difference there. So it's which song is better. I would say they all have their different aspects that make them pretty good songs. So, but that being said, I could not give Meghan Trainor full credit for a lot of these points. So she ended up with an 8.5 out of 10 for the song as a whole. I thought that's still a pretty high score, but just couldn't give her full credit.
Okay. That is a pretty wide gap between our scores. I don't know if we'll ever quite reconcile that. There will be the occasional tune that strikes each of us very differently, and that's okay. despite the quantification that we attempt to do here, music is still subjective and the experience is still unique to the listener. So I'm with you as far as I might not agree with your scores, but I'll fight to the death for your ability to give them.
I love it.
I think it makes a lot of sense given that there was, some controversial elements to the song's reception when it was released in 2014. It makes sense. There's a little bit of controversy between the two of us now.
Yeah.
But that's been all about that bass. A fine song if it's what you're looking for. We've got a couple more coming right up after this short break, brought to you by Mary Jane's Fortified Biscuits. The best start to any morning is a little bit of wake and a whole lot of bake. We'll be right back. Howdy, folks. Welcome back. For our next song, we've got the lovely Haley Reinhart with Honey, There's the Door. Kevin, we'll let you prosecute first. What'd you think of the composition?
So I thought it was nice and strong. Across the board, Haley got high marks from me. I didn't have any particular thing that I was upset about or anything that really stood out to me as impressive. The one notable thing that I wrote as far as notes was that the rhyme scheme is very simplistic. That's not a negative. It tells a narrative. It does its job. I couldn't give full credit for everything, but as far as melody, lyrics, and harmony go, Haley got a point 0.8 out of 1. Rhythm, a little bit less. I felt it was there could have been more there. But yeah, give me your thoughts. What are your thoughts on this one?
All right. So I thought the melody was really the strong point. Harmony as well, because this is a vocal showcase. So my ratings were 0.9 for melody, 0.8 for lyrics, 0.6 for rhythm, and 0.7 out of 1 for harmony.
That's a lot closer than the last one.
That's good. That's good to know that we're almost back in the groove. Speaking of groove, though, I agree with you. The rhythm in this piece is very simple, but I feel like that's to be expected on a vocal showcase. That main vocal melody, it's often neutral. It's neither sad nor happy, but the emotion comes from the vocal harmonizations and embellishments that take place throughout. I thought the lyrics were well written. The way that she references starlets of the past, Marilyn Monroe and Brigitte Bardot, I really like that. My only complaint with the lyrics was the line, "I got to give it to you straight because that's what I do best." Really? Your unfiltered honesty is your best quality, not your wit or your generosity, or that you're good with animals and better with kids, something like that. Maybe even your singing voice, which would kind of take us into the performance. High marks from me on the performance all around. Obviously, being a vocal showcase, that's where the emphasis is. But 0.5 out of 0.6 for each, the accuracy and feel. I think it's meant to be a little bit icy or nonchalant, but that is what works for the message. It's not meant to be a really deeply emotional tune. And the production was middling, half credit for the mix and the arrangement. There is something slightly off with the percussion in the mix, at least on the version that I listened to. it sounded kind of like a click track running through just about everything except for the third chorus. And it's about 20 to 30% left bias or left panned. It might be actual cymbals, but I kind of doubt it. And the only other drums featured are barely accents. That might also contribute to why the rhythm of the piece felt like it was lacking a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought from a production standpoint, maybe it's the recording of the drums, maybe it's the choice to use either a click track or a digitally programmed cymbal versus the real thing. I thought that choice was off. It deserved something a little bit more, especially something that builds towards the end. That was my thought. But tell me what you thought of the performance and the production, Kev.
I think we were close again. As far as performance goes, I thought full marks for accuracy. The feel maybe just a little bit less so, zero point 0.5 out of 6, out of 0.6. Um, it has an excellent. I mean, the vocal delivery is excellent. It might be just a little bit too chill of a track for the message that it's portraying. I feel like for the most part, I was with it. I just feel like the chorus could have been more dynamic, and it would have really broken up the song and made it a little bit more interesting for me. But it seemed kind of flat across the board. The harmony is present and it's strong, but it seems a little bit like an afterthought. And it might just be that I'm biased. I really like that Meghan Trainor track. I really think that was the best vocal harmony I've probably ever heard. So it might just be that, but it was nice and strong, and it was heavy in there. As far as production goes, almost full credit for both mix and arrangement. 0.5 point 0.5 for both. Again, it feels a little bit flat. It would have benefited, I think, from a dynamic third act. And the only other complaint that I had was that the accompaniment, all the other instrumentation, is just kind of buried in the mix, and I can't hear it. With the vocals going on, they were all great, but yeah, I would have loved to hear more instrumentation or louder instrumentation in the background. As far as appeal goes, looking at emotion, the message just missed me. I gave it a 1.2 out of 1.6. Innovation, I thought was pretty on point. I thought the lyric construction and the vocal delivery, especially, warranted an extra little point in there. So zero point 0.3 out of zero point 0.4. It was very well crafted. Repeat listenability, a little bit lower for me, 1.2. For whatever reason, I just, again, it felt kind of flat. And so it didn't seem really all that interesting to keep my interest throughout the piece. And again, I'm not the demographic. So I feel like that's probably why that emotion missed me, and the repeat listenability is a little bit lower. I can still appreciate the message of valuing yourself, beyond the hyperbole used in the message in the lyrics. It can be give and take. You don't have to be an asshole. You don't have to go overreaching. But I like the message. I thought it was good. It's just a little bit over the other side for me.
I think that's maybe why I liked it more, or why the message hit me a little bit more. I rated this as a 1.4 out of 1.6 on both emotion and repeat listenability.
Nice.
So I once had a girlfriend say to me, "Treat me like a goddamn queen, or I'm leaving you." And eventually she did leave. And I'm a lot better off now because let me tell you, she was no Haley Reinhart. Couldn't carry a tune in a silver bucket. But this song, this take, is a much more romantic and mature take on the essentially the same sentiment. I'm not going to waste my time on a relationship that isn't real, that isn't serious, that isn't uplifting. It's a solid composition that's sung very well, and I think it's just eminently listenable. So that's my take on it. Overall tune score for me was a 7.5 out of 10.
Nice. And I gave it a little bit more credit. In fact, it ended up with a 7.9 out of 10 for me. So that's interesting. You liked it more, and I still rated it a little bit higher. Maybe my rating's off.
Well, I think part of it was the production. That's probably where a lot of that point differential was from.
I think it is just more the appeal. It just kind of, yeah, I don't know. Looking back,
Well, that too. I mean, I favored The melody and the lyrics probably a little bit higher, and the emotion repeat listenability, that's probably a good 6 or 7 tenths of a point right there. But you gave it more on the production side.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Where I only gave it a 0.6. So, we're around the same ballpark. That's a nice thing to see. Much better than than what we had on the Meghan Trainor song.
Yeah.
That was a broad chasm. So we're a lot closer now. That's some good news for us and the audience. So I think might be a little something for us to celebrate. Let's take a short break, and we'll be right back after this with our final recent retro song, which is actually the oldest out of these 3. It's Rehab by Amy Winehouse. We'll be back after this. Howdy, folks, and welcome back to the show. For our final song tonight, we've got Rehab by Amy Winehouse. And this will round out the slate of recent songs that sound retro. I'll go ahead and take on the role of prosecuting litigator, and we'll start with composition. My ratings for the 4 elements of composition on this track were 0.7 for melody, 0.7 for lyrics, 0.8 for rhythm, and 0.8 for harmony, each out of 1 available point. I thought the melody, especially the chorus hook, is utterly memorable. There's a solid swinging rhythm provided by the band. I believe that's the Dap Kings that provide the accompaniment. The harmony stands out for me in both the overall feel of the chord changes and the way they sound with full instrumentation. As far as the lyrics, there's a defiant message of I don't need help, but that's undercut by a couple of lines like, ooh, I just need a friend, and I'm going to lose my baby, which is probably the saddest line that we've heard tonight, certainly, and one of the sadder lines that you can ever hear in a set of lyrics. It feels like a glimpse inside of a fragile individual who's been putting on a tough act for far too long, but most of the audience is going to remember they tried to make me go to rehab. I said, no, no, no. And they're going to view it as an anthem of debauchery. And I apologize for almost singing there. I'll promise to not do that again. But that's my take on the composition. Kev, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
So I don't disagree with anything you said. For me, I felt like it warranted maybe a few more points. As far as melody, rhythm, and harmony go, I thought it nailed it. I thought everything about this song kind of wowed me a little bit. So I gave it full credit for those. Lyrics, I gave it less points, 0.8 out of 1. The biggest complaint I had about the lyrics was that the rhyme scheme itself was very simple, but the cadence of the rhymes was a little bit interesting. So I gave it another point again. So 0.8 out of 1 for that. I did think that everything kind of, all the instrumentation, it was really rich and interesting throughout the piece. And I honestly, I can't remember the last song I listened to with this much going on simultaneously. And it was highlighted very well, all those each individual instrument. Each part was detailed and it really benefits the song. The vocal delivery was amazing. It masks the simple rhyme scheme that I disliked, that might otherwise sound boring. The way Amy Winehouse sings the lyrics really kind of calls attention away from that and kind of hides that a little bit, which I liked. So for performance, full marks for accuracy and feel. For production, the same. I really liked the arrangement. I really liked that you could hear all those instruments. You could still hear Amy. Everything was well produced as far as I can see. But did you have any negatives to say about those two, about performance or production?
No, not really. I think Amy Winehouse was a notably fine singer, and I thought it was delivered accurately with feeling by her and the band. So you said you gave it full credit, 0.6 out of 0.6 for each of those 4 ratings. I did too. It's just full credit for me is 0.5 out of 0.6.
Okay.
Now, for the appeal of it, this is almost, I don't want to say hard to talk about, but time and events have sort of altered the legacy of this track. It once seemed very defiant, but now almost a cautionary tale given Amy's continued struggles with and eventual demise from addiction. The performance from her and the band stands up as an evolution from the Motown sound of the 60s, and the success of this song helped pave the way for more female musicians who trade in retro sounds, as obviously we've heard some tonight, and imagery that evokes dependence. So while I enjoy this song, I'm almost more saddened by the stubbornness that it portrays and the negative consequences that stem from it. That's just speaking to the message of the song when you really listen to it and scrutinize it. But for emotion, about a 3/4 credit there. I thought this was innovative in that it reintroduced a new generation to that Motown or doo-wop or R&B soul kind of sound. And repeat listenability, regardless of everything I just said, is nearly a full credit. It's 1.5 out of 1.6 for me. So
wow, good.
My final rating, my final tune score on Rehab was 7.9 out of 10. This is best listened to when the server asks if you're ready for your third apple teeny, and you're like, well, duh. Kevin, tell the folks how this track appealed to you.
As far as appeal goes, it got pretty high marks across the board. This may be one of my highest rated songs in the last group of songs that we've been doing. Emotion, it hit me 1.4 out of 1.6. I thought overall the lyrics and the writing and the, given facts that we know, I think that the song is effectively emotionless. So this song is just as honest as it is dishonest. There's thinly veiled jokes used to hide a weakness, an actual dark affliction. It feels like a bluff. It feels like a person acting strong to hide a weakness. And I thought that was very, if not endearing, it just drew empathy, straight out of me. I think this song does a good job of taking, such a dark affliction and turning it into something beautiful. This is an amazing song. As far as innovation goes, almost full credit, 0.3 out of 0.4. Repeat listenability is high, 1.4 out of 1.6. My overall score, I gave Amy a 9.3 for this one out of 10.
Wow. Well, there you have it, folks. That is a very highly rated recent song that sounds retro. But I think that probably leaves us all with the question, Kev, what is the best recent song that sounds retro out of the last, 20 or so years?
Well, I mean, it's pretty obvious the way I rated these three songs that it's Norah Jones' Cary On.
See, and here I thought it was Major by Asteroids Galaxy Tour.
I don't even know what that is. Can we review that one?
We might have to now.
All right.
Very fun band out of Denmark. But I think that does it for the tune scores. Did we learn anything today, Kev?
I don't know. Tell me what we learned, Cary.
No, I don't think we did.
I don't think we learned anything either.
Well, that's a terrible disappointment. So probably time to wrap up and end it. Folks, want to remind you as always, go out, listen to these songs, give them a chance. Let us know what you liked about it, what you didn't, where we were right, where we were wrong, or in the case of some of our differences between Kevin and myself, which one of us was right and which one was wrong. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to the show and to give us your feedback. I want to thank you so much. That's been Kevin Niebrick. I've been Cary Nightingale. Take care.